got this cute basket of books for my birthday, which was in August, but I'm gonna read them in this video. I asked you guys what order I should read them in, and you guys said longest to shortest. So I am going to find the longest book in this little basket, and I'm gonna start reading it. Actually chose these at random. She said she just went in a Barnes & Noble and picked out 4 books. But before I start reading, let me tell you what 4 books I got. The first one I got is like a Julie Andrews memoir. That's all I know about. I'm not really a memoir girly, but when it's Julie Andrews, I will definitely gladly give it a chance. Next, we've got one that sounds really interesting to me. It's called The Librarian's Spy. It's a World War II novel. You guys know, if you've been here before, that I love that kind of era of historical fiction. The synopsis says, Ava thought her job as a librarian at the Library of Congress would mean a quiet, routine existence, but an unexpected offer from the US military has brought her to Lisbon with a new mission, posing as a librarian while working undercover as a spy gathering intelligence. And then there's another perspective. Meanwhile, in occupied France, Elaine has begun an apprenticeship at a printing press run by members of the resistance. It's a job usually reserved for men, but in the war, those roles have been forgotten. Then we've got this one, which I think is another memoir. It's called American Ramble. In the spring of 2021, with only a small satchel of essentials, Neil King Jr. embarked on a life-changing walk from Washington, D.C. to New York City. The 26-day journey took him through historic battlefields and cemeteries, over the Mason-Dixon line, past Quaker and Amish farms, along Valley Forge stream beds, atop a New Jersey trash mound, across New York Harbor, and finally to his ultimate destination, the Ramble, where a tangle of pathways converges in Central Park. Honestly, it sounds interesting, even though I don't normally like to go for memoirs. Like, that sounds like a fun journey. I hope that it is. I hope that the writing is done in such a way that it is really engaging and gripping. Fingers crossed that will be the case, because it sounds like the kind of journey that I would love to go on. Like, that sounds like a really fun little trip. I hope I'm gonna like that. Then finally, the longest book, which is the one I'll be reading first, I got Keeping Faith by Jodi Picoult. I don't think I've ever actually gotten through any of her books. Like, I started one and I just didn't think that it was gonna be for me. So this would be my first one that I can remember. When the marriage of Mariah White and her cheating husband Colin turns ugly and disintegrates, their 7-year-old daughter Faith is there to witness it all. In the aftermath of a rapid divorce, Mariah falls into a deep depression, and suddenly Faith, a child with no religious background whatsoever, hears divine voices, starts reciting biblical passages, and develops stigmata. I don't know what that means. And when the miraculous healings begin, mother and daughter are thrust into the volatile center of controversy and into the heat of a custody battle, trapped in a mad media circus that threatens what little stability the family has left. Sounds sad, but definitely interesting. I'm looking forward to getting into this. 422 pages, so it's definitely the longest. I did just look at the number, but I didn't see anything on the last page, so I didn't spoil anything for myself, which sometimes happens, but I am interested to get into this and see where this goes. I already love this main character, if it's the main character speaking in the prologue. She says, every day of the week has a routine. Mondays I work on the frames of the tiny doll houses I build. Tuesdays I build the furnishings. Wednesdays are for errands, Thursdays for house cleaning, and Fridays for tending to emergencies that crop up during the week. And I love that. Every day has its purpose. This is how I like to live my life. So I already love this main character. Okay, and also, can we appreciate this one simple statement? I curl the telephone cord around my arm. If you know, you know. There's just a really cute reference to, well, I don't want to spoil it, but really cute biblical reference. I feel like I sort of don't look like myself with my hair like this and these glasses on, but my eyes have just been really hurting from blue light lately, so I'm wearing glasses at the moment. I was wondering, what books are you guys reading lately? What is the most recent 5-star read that you've had? And are there any new releases that you have just absolutely loved? Let me know in the comments. Because I've done really well actually at cutting down my physical TBR of fiction books, and I'm gonna kind of be starting over in 2025, so I need recommendations. So let me know in the comments. More than halfway through this, actually quite a ways more than halfway through this, on chapter 11 on page 246, and boy do I have some thoughts. Let's talk about it. First of all, it's potentially 4 stars, might be 3.5, not sure yet. It definitely started out strong 4 stars and has kind of gone downhill a little bit, but then goes back up, so we'll see about that. There's a lot of religious talk, a lot of questioning whether what's going on in this story is heretical, and so that is a very interesting thing to navigate, because it's more like, is it the perception of the way that things are perceived, the way things are explained, or is it actually unbiblical? And you have to get to like this point in the story to understand what I mean by that, because up until like this point it was a little bit questionable. But honestly, a lot of the statements, it just seems like people who don't really know and are genuinely trying to figure it out, more so than people who are just being hateful. So I am enjoying it to the extent that I've gotten to. I will say that there's some language in here. It's not a ton, so it's not super distracting. This is multiple perspectives, so sometimes it's kind of difficult for me to realize like whose perspective it is at first, and kind of like place who's talking and what part of the story they're from. I do think, fun fact, the little girl in this story is 7 and it's 1999, and I was 7 in 1999, so I feel like this is fun to read about a little girl who's my age, but when she's a kid. I just thought that that was like a fun coincidence, because I can really like put myself in her head kind of what it was like to be a kid at that time. Honestly, one thing that I didn't really find very realistic at all was the legal scene that I read, because I felt like the attorneys were just like interrupting each other, and I don't think that would ever be allowed unless the judge was just like really not paying attention. The way that they were talking wasn't very compelling in a legal sense, but that's just my opinion and based off of the very little bit that I have seen in real life. Also, one critique, the font is very small, but there's not much you can do about that. Overall, it's been an interesting, engaging story. I am enjoying it, even if I'm kind of like, is this, going to be problematic? I don't know. I started it at 1:30 this afternoon. It's now 10:41. So on and off reading for about 9 hours has gotten me some decent progress. Yes, I am a slow reader, but if that tells you anything, I've actually been able to stay focused and keep reading. So that's a good sign, I think. I don't like the ending. Anyways, I've got notes. I've got notes on my computer and I'm gonna read them to you. I really actually did like this book. Like, before I go into all of this, I probably will give it either 3.5 or 4 stars. I'm not sure yet, because I really did enjoy the whole reading experience and the story itself. Just have issues with it. So let's talk about it. First of all, since I talked to you last, Bible stories, twisted or not fully accurate and used in comparison to this, I can understand that people who don't actually know the Bible would not have a full picture of what a Bible story is talking about. I get that, but it's kind of like in law school, you'll have cases where the facts have to line up in order for the same laws to apply. In the same way, you can't take a Bible story that doesn't have the same facts and this story and try to make them line up. And you definitely can't use parts of a Bible story, but not the full story, to try to like compare it to this. That was annoying. There are a few different religions represented in this, so it's not like a Christian perspective at all, but it is very much talking about God and religion. One thing that I did like, fun fact about me, is I really like some musicals. I like going to the theater. One of my favorite musicals of all time is Oklahoma, and there was an Oklahoma reference in here, and I just appreciate it. I do want to say there are 2 openish door scenes, and they do talk about that stuff a little bit. It's not like a lot. It's not super descriptive. You know what's going on, but it's not that descriptive and super easy to skip over. So that is in here, but it's not like a huge part of it. The big primary issue with this is the same thing that people don't like about the book The Shack is also present in this book. And I was hoping that it would kind of be resolved. There are some characters that talk about like their theory of what the girl was seeing, and I agree with the characters that had that theory. I don't think that the perspective that is like being not pushed, but yeah, kind of pushed in this is the correct one. I'm not God. I don't know. I think as long as you are recognizing that this is not this, then this is an enjoyable story. But if you're looking for truth and you don't really have a foundation in faith, maybe skip this and go to this because this is true. Overall, my faith is strong enough that I am not like offended or confused or stressed out by this because I believe this. But if you're like searching and this could easily be confusing, maybe skip it. I don't know. That's just my opinion. This over this. But overall, it was a good, enjoyable story. And my sister did pretty good picking this out without knowing anything about it or if I would like it at all. So check for this one. This one was good. I did have the issues with it, but it really was an engaging and enjoyable story. Maybe not the most theologically accurate, but I still enjoyed my reading experience. The next book that I'm gonna read is actually the one that I think I'm gonna like the most, so I'm kind of terrified and I feel like I might not like it at all. But it's a historical fiction, World War II vibes. So I've got this book called The Librarian Spy. I'm hopeful. It's a World War II novel and basically dual perspective. One of the characters is a librarian and the other is in the resistance. But I'm looking forward to getting into this. This book is 383 pages. So considerably shorter, well, like 40 pages shorter than the last book that I read. The last book I read took me probably about the last day to read. I'm gonna really try to make a good dent in this in like the next 2 hours, and I will probably update you after that. I have read 93 pages in this. I stopped in the middle of a chapter, which if you know me is not normal. I'm not super connecting to this yet. Like, there's parts of it that I'm interested to see where it's going, but I'm not just like absolutely loving it yet. Like, it takes place in France, so it's like I'm just comparing it to The Nightingale, which isn't fair. I'm not ready to DNF, and when I say DNF, I mean like soft DNF. It would not be just like never pick it up again. I do want to finish this book at some point. I just don't know if it's gonna be in this video. I'm gonna give it a little bit longer, but I might have to move on to the next book because I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get stuck. I'm already a day behind when I wanted this video to go up, and I've got 2 more books to go. Those are both, I think, nonfiction. Well, I know the one is. I think the other one is too. And I just don't want to get stuck. So I'm going to give this a little bit longer. And then if I'm not like super engaged, I will put it down and save it for a video that I'm planning. Either a video that I'm planning for the end of the year or 2025 TBR at this point. I think I'm gonna put this down for right now. I just don't think that I'm gonna be focused on it. I need to get to the other 2, so I think I'm gonna pick up this book and save this for another day. Writing style of this is very engaging. I'm looking forward to seeing how this journey went. It's interesting because the writer is talking about like 2020 and 2021 and just kind of like the events that happened there, and it's kind of just like bringing me back. But I think that this is going to be so interesting. It really, the way that it's written so far, just in chapter 1, like it makes you want to go on this journey too. I'm very, very intrigued to see where we're going to go with this. Plot twist, it's the next day, and I know that I said I was gonna read as much as I could, and I did. However, I only read like another chapter because my eyes are super dry. I don't know if you can see how red this one is. Whenever the weather starts changing, my eyes just get really dry. I don't know, you probably don't care. But if your eyes are really dry and painful, it's really hard to read a book. So I didn't end up reading any more, and I do need to get this video up today. So what I'm gonna do, since that book and the one before it, I had just kind of gotten a good start and I know I want to finish both of them, I'm just gonna pause on both of them and get into the final book so I can read as much as possible of this one before I have to get this video up, because I did tell you guys that I would have it up Sunday or Monday at the latest, and today is Monday. So I am gonna read for a couple hours, maybe not even that much, depends on how I'm feeling about this one, and then I'm gonna get this video up. So I don't usually love memoirs, but this is so interesting. Like, I never would have thought all of the really difficult things that Julie Andrews went through in her life. Like, there's so much. She was even talking about like her experience in like, I guess, bunkers in World War II. Like, that's crazy to think about. And you guys know I like a World War II story in historical fiction, but just to like read about her actual real life experience and think that she lived through that. Like, I know mathematically it makes sense, but like, I don't know. I guess I just really didn't think about that. So I'm enjoying this. And I definitely am not going to get through it today because I do need to get this video up, but my sister did good with these books. Like, I think I might need to have her pick out all my books from now on because I haven't had one that I want to DNF. Okay, overall, I think this has gone really well. Now, I didn't get to finish 3 of the 4 books, but I do plan to finish them at some point. They're all like soft DNFs, but not really DNFs, because I do plan to read them. And I'm not putting them down because I don't want to read them. I just don't have time because I need to get this video up. I feel like I've said this 45 times, and I'm sure you guys get the point. But overall, this one's so good. I did enjoy this one. You guys know what I said. I mean, yeah, there were some issues, but this was a really interesting story, and I do recommend it. If you're having like issues with faith, maybe not right now, maybe save it for later on in life when you're more solid on what you believe, and definitely seek the Bible before this. But like, I felt like it was an interesting story. And then this one is the closest that I have of the 4 to potentially DNF. And it's interesting because this is the one that I thought that I would love the most, because it is a World War II historical fiction. I don't know, I wasn't super connected with it, but I still want to at least give it another try. So I guess this is the closest to like a true soft DNF. But I do plan to put this on my TBR cart and potentially get to it before the end of the year. If not, maybe it'll be part of my 2025 TBR. And then we have these 2 nonfiction that I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like these, because nonfiction can be very subjective, just like fiction can be. But, you know, nonfiction, it's harder to enjoy if you don't like fully, I don't know. It's harder to enjoy if you don't like really relate to it. But this one is interesting because I don't really have the same perspective as the author in general, but I find his writing style very interesting and captivating, and very much I want to see like how this journey goes for him, and like the different things that he learns along the way, the different places that he goes. I just found it very interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting back into this whenever that time comes. And then this is so fun because not only do we love our queen, it's just so interesting to think of the things that Julie Andrews went through in her life. At the point that I'm at, she was a child when this stuff was happening, like a little kid pretty much, like 9 years old. And it's just mind-blowing because we think like, oh, she's Julie Andrews, like her life is just so great because she's done all these amazing things, but it's like she went through so much hardship that you would never think. And it just makes me think like it's not necessarily your circumstances, it's what you do with them. And yes, she had some opportunities, but those opportunities would never have come without the hardship. And I don't want to spoil it because there's a very interesting tidbit about why she started singing. How do I want to say it? A lot of the times we see people in success and we think that they were just handed it. And yes, certainly there are some people who experience success and it doesn't seem fair because they were just given it. The vast majority of the time though, it's what you do with the difficulties that you're handed, and not necessarily just like flowing and easy, and I don't know. It's just a good reminder, and I do think that that's the way that I want to leave this video because that's just such a good life lesson. What are you doing with your life circumstances? Anyway, these are my 4 books that my sister had given me for my birthday. She picked them out randomly. She's not really a reader. I mean, she reads sometimes, but yes, I'm struggling with these. But she did really well. I have 1 book out of 6. Let me go get it. Here's one of the 6 books that I need to read in the next week. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this, but how many of you guys think that I'm going to read 6 books in the next 6 days? I certainly don't, but I'm going to try. So stay tuned for the next video to see if I succeed. I'll talk to you guys then.